Okay, picture this. You're sitting in a boardroom and you are just completely frustrated by a brilliant colleague who, for whatever reason, cannot seem to stop overthinking these simplest, most basic tasks. You know exactly the type I'm talking about, right? They are easily the smartest person in the room, yet they get totally bogged down in tiny details that everyone else moved past 20 minutes ago. Well, today we're going to explore some fascinating new psychological data that will completely reframe how we view these frustrating moments. In this explainer, we're diving into a massive, data-backed paradigm shift about how the highly intelligent brain actually functions day-to-day in the workplace. Here's our quick roadmap for today. We'll be hitting the intelligence myth, habit 1, which is obsessive detail, the psychological need for cognition, habit 2, which is trivial freezing, the maximizing loop, and finally, why this whole thing is a feature, not a bug.
All right, let's jump right into section 1, the great misunderstanding of intelligence.
So, as a society, we often picture a corporate genius like, I don't know, a business version of James Bond. Perfectly decisive, calm, totally unflappable, making high-stakes choices without a single second of hesitation. But when we actually look closely at the psychological data, the reality is so much messier. High cognitive ability often comes with intense friction. It shows up as overthinking, hesitation, and a tangled web of thoughts that can sometimes just look like social awkwardness. Those traits, they aren't the opposite of intelligence. They are actually often the clearest indicators of it. And look, we aren't just guessing here. We're anchoring this in hard, clinical psychology. This insight comes straight from a massive 2025 multi-level meta-analysis published in the Journal of Intelligence. We're talking about data from over 25,000 people. To put that into perspective, that is enough professionals to fill a major sports arena. It's an incredibly comprehensive look at how these cognitive abilities really play out in daily business life. Moving right along to section 2, habit 1, obsessing until satisfied. Okay, this is perhaps the absolute #1 cause of friction in team meetings. Just think about how this actually looks in the boardroom. A decision gets made, a discussion is seemingly closed, but that one colleague just keeps returning to it. They completely reject the superficial explanations that everyone else was perfectly happy to just nod along with. They zero in on tiny, totally unnoticed discrepancies, and to the rest of the team, they just look incredibly stubborn or, stuck. It's wildly frustrating to manage, but there is a profound psychological reason behind it. Which brings us perfectly to section 3, the need for cognition. That stubbornness we just talked about, actually, scratch calling it stubbornness, it isn't a flaw at all. It's built on this powerful psychological foundation first formalized by psychologist Arthur Cohen, known as the need for cognition. By the way, this is a fantastic piece of clinical vocabulary to drop in your next HR or leadership meeting. It defines a personality trait where someone naturally seeks out, engages in, and genuinely enjoys effortful thinking. They literally demand that situations be structured in a meaningful, fully integrated way. They simply cannot just accept a good enough answer. See, when highly intelligent people with a high need for cognition are pushed to just move on before they fully grasp something, they aren't just choosing to be difficult. Their brain literally experiences acute physical and mental discomfort. Psychologists call this tension and deprivation. It's like an intense itch they can't scratch. Their cognitive system is trying to do its job, and an incomplete answer actively blocks that system. So they aren't being stubborn. Their brain is just demanding closure. All right, let's look at section 4, habit 2, freezing on trivial decisions. If the first habit was annoying in meetings, this second one leads to just a bizarre paradox in the workplace. In high-stakes situations, think evaluating a massive career choice or a complex business strategy, this person is a total superstar. Their careful evaluation looks like brilliant analysis. But in low-stakes situations, like picking a lunch menu or deciding whether to respond to a Slack message right now or in 10 minutes, this brilliant problem solver completely freezes. To everyone around them, it looks like embarrassing dysfunction. Seriously, why does a strategic genius freeze up at a sandwich shop? Let's unpack that in section 5, the maximizing mechanism. The answer to that freezing paradox lies in an underlying cognitive engine that psychologists call maximizing. Now, for a long time, people just confuse this with plain old indecisiveness, but it's an entirely different beast. Maximizing is the cognitive process of exhaustively evaluating options. The issue isn't that they can't choose, it's the overwhelming burden of being able to evaluate way too many possibilities simultaneously. Their brain isn't broken, it's actually just running too many background calculations all at once. Let's walk step by step through this invisible, high-speed loop happening inside their head while they stare blankly at a streaming menu. First, they generate alternatives. Second, they simulate outcomes for every single path. Third, they predict their future regret for each one. And fourth, they compare everything simultaneously. In a corporate strategy meeting, this intense loop is pure gold.
But here is the ultimate catch. This incredibly powerful cognitive processor, it doesn't come with an automatic low-stakes mode switch. The brain doesn't just automatically realize, oh, hey, this is just a lunch order, I can power down. Nope, the exact same intensive maximizing process used for a multi-million-dollar merger is misfiring on the decision of whether to order a turkey sandwich or a salad.
Which brings us to our final takeaway in Section 6. A unique feature, not a bug. So, how do we take all these fascinating psychological insights and translate them into a genuinely empowering workplace strategy? Well, I absolutely love this quote from our source material. It is not a flaw, but a unique characteristic. That right there is the paradigm shift. These traits, the stubborn need for detailed closure, the exhausting maximization of trivial choices, they are highly valuable signs of fluid and crystallized intelligence. Once we stop viewing them as annoying flaws, we can actually start utilizing them as incredible assets. So here is your actionable strategy for Monday morning. First, explicitly deploy these individuals for complex problem solving, where those maximizing tendencies are a massive asset. Second, trust their intuition. When they refuse to accept a premature conclusion, listen to them. If they sense a discrepancy, there's probably a real issue there. Third, forgive the paralysis on minor daily choices. Seriously, don't judge their intellect based on their lunch order. And finally, give them the necessary time and space to close their cognitive loops, knowing that letting them do so prevents incredibly costly mistakes down the line. We've completely rethought what intelligence looks like in action today. It is messy, it's meticulous, and yeah, sometimes it literally cannot pick a restaurant. But it's also deeply analytical, thorough, and indispensable. So what does this mean for you? How will you harness these deep thinking features in your workplace tomorrow? Take a look at your team, or hey, maybe even take a look in the mirror, and see where you can turn these misunderstood habits into a massive competitive advantage. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep learning.